Hello, welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. My name is Jacob, joined by Charlie Zazzera and the man, Mr. Roberto Hollis. We've had a substitution with Sam Yuka, who is feeling a little bit under the weather. So make sure you do go and send a nice message over to Sam. Roberto, mate, how you getting on? Thank you so much for joining us today, mate.
I'm great. Thank you very much for having me on. It's a real pleasure and honour to be on here. And I've gone on the channel a few times to do, fan cams and things, but this is another level really to be on with you guys and to be like, on a nice collective video. It feels great. So thank you.
Oh, mate, what a pleasure. I have to say, you've probably won on your live stream debut the best backdrop in WD18 history. Just talk us through what we've got behind you. Is it the history of Watford? Is it Tales of the Vic?
I really wish it was. No, it's mainly kind of books, but also like holiday books. So whenever I go on holiday with the family, we like keep a record of like things we've done each day.
Nice.
So, yeah, we basically just write everything out that we've done on the holiday and draw little pictures to go with it. So that's mainly the things behind me.
Oh, I love that, mate. Love that. And make sure you do go and check out Roberto's podcast. The form is temporary, FPL based. Really, really good stuff. I've listened to an episode, so it's absolutely top stuff. We'll leave a link in the description below to make sure you go and have a listen to that. Charlie, mate, how you getting on? How you feeling? You weren't at the Vic yesterday. I walked out and I was like, I looked at my dad and I was like, oh, God, that's annoying, isn't it? Even though we managed to pull one back, we probably should have won that game. How was it watching from afar? Were you looking at the sofa going, I'm going to plant my face into the pillows?
To be honest, I think if Rajvic didn't score at the end, I'd have been pretty disgruntled. But I think after that goal, I was pretty measured, pretty content with that. I think that's 7 points, isn't it, last out of 9. Obviously, we had the Cardiff game. Val's talked quite a lot about stopping the bleeding. And I think he's done quite a good job of that, to be honest. I think we saw the Cardiff game a lot more defensively with Livermore coming in. Got a good away point there. Scraped a win against Sheffield Wednesday where we maybe weren't as free-flowing, but again, solid and got the win that we needed. And I think Swansea was a bit of a surprise midweek, but I think we were well worth the win, really. I thought we really dug in and we had quite a good amount of breaks that we kind of capitalised on. And then yesterday, I thought especially the first half was probably some of the best football we've played all season. I think we're getting back to those attacking principles, especially in the first half. And obviously, yeah, good to score another 2 goals. Disappointing the goals we conceded, but I think we'd have been happy if someone said 7 points out of 9 out of those 3 games.
Very true. When you look back on the week that we've had and also getting that first away win for the first time since Norwich away at the start of the year, I think it was 295 days in total in the end, which we'll touch on in the video later on. Roberto, just on yesterday, are you seeing that as 1 point gained or 2 dropped?
Well, the way that we played, I thought we were on top in a lot of portions of that match. So really, based on the performance alone, I felt that should have been a victory. Just because we had some really good passage of play, like it was just that final pass that was often missing at times for us. But I think ultimately, when you think about the contextualization of the game, to be conceding that late goal in the second half, and you think, oh, this is a bit of a smash and grab Millwall victory on the cards here, to then show that battling spirit, to then keep on believing towards the end. And there was only 6 minutes of added time. There could have been more. There was a lot of time wasting, a lot of kind of challenges flying in, and so yeah, I thought it was quite low on the additional time. But yeah, Watford kept believing and found that way back. And fair play to Rajvic, obviously came on with the substitution. Loser also substituted on, so it's good to see those substitutes making the impact.
Roberto, I was pretty calm coming on, but then you just remind me that we should have had about 10 minutes of added time. That was how on earth? 6 minutes. I mean, so 4 goals, 4 celebrations, 2 head injuries. I mean, come on, have a day off. Yeah, I completely agree. It should have been a lot more. So goals, obviously, from Watford coming from Zazzera, Spria and Milita. Actually, you know what? Roberto's done a video on pronunciation. Is it Milita Rajovic?
Well, I've looked at it and I've read little, websites and watched videos of players like pronouncing it in the kind of Danish accent.
Yeah.
Milita Rajovic.
Milita Rajovic. Love it. Okay. In the right place at the right time. 4 goals for Rajovic in a Watford shirt, and then Fleming and Harding with the 2 Millwall goals. Charlie, just to break down the game first off, could you maybe run through some of the key stats from yesterday on SofaScore and what we can learn from some of the findings there?
Yeah, let's have a look. We'll go through it. Looking at the momentum bar, we can see in the first half, we started brightly. They got a bit more back into it, but the second half of the first half, I thought we were well on top here. I think in the second half, we'll talk about the substitutions a bit later on, but we didn't have as much control or as much impetus, I thought, and we did have to weather a storm. But I think after that, we did come on strong. They get the goal from the set piece, and luckily Rajovic just popped up at the end. Just looking down at the stats here, expected goals, ours were high again, 2.18 to their 0.97. We had more ball possession, more shots, 19 to their 11, shots on target, 6 to their 4. And one couple of bits I wanted to highlight was kind of our shot map, just to see how many chances we created and the quality of chances. Starting with the first half, just from, I'm not sure if it was from a corner, but it fell to Yasser Asprilla point blank range. And I'm not going to give the keeper too much credit because I thought he was pretty dodgy yesterday, but it hit him straight in the arm, and that was a big chance from Asprilla. I thought there was another one from Livermore. Let's see if we can find it. Just before half time, when Ken Sema done brilliantly, got to the byline, cut it back, and Livermore kind of scuffed his chance. I thought that was another really decent opportunity. And then one in the second half, really, for Imran Louza, fell to him in the box, and I think he just kind of rushed it. He could have showed a bit better composure there. Someone of his ability, I think, would have, or with more confidence, should have been doing better. So I just think that goes to show the quality of chances that we were making. And I also wanted to look at the expected goals against. First off, if you look at the chances we are conceding, so expected goals against are basically the quality of chances that we're conceding. So we're actually keeping teams at bay and not giving up big chances in the league. We've got the second best record. West Brom have got the best. So you can see the defensive work there are actually looking pretty strong. However, if you look at the set pieces, especially the set play goals, we've conceded the most in the league. Same with Stoke. Yesterday, another one, really, really poor. The way the ball landed and where Harding scored from, Backman's got to be clearing that. But to be fair, our defenders weren't that dominant either. And I think as the season's gone on, at set pieces, I get more and more worried, especially cheap free kicks, or if we concede a corner, I think they've got a good chance to score. Jacob, what do you think in terms of that set piece defending, how we're doing in that regard?
Do you know what? When the corner got given, Charlie, I immediately thought we were in trouble. As you say, the stats don't lie in that respect, but also the fact of the matter is you looked at Millwall's team. I think it was Cooper at the back. You then look at some of their other lads up front, at Fleming, etc. They're big guys, and the way they were attacking the ball, you felt like they were one cross away from really get back into it. And I wasn't surprised, to be honest, that we conceded from the corner. In terms of whether Batman should have done better, I think he has to be coming out and claiming that. One criticism of Batman that I think no one can really debate is that he doesn't really come off his line often enough. And when he does come off his line, it's not too convincing. And I think he's probably looked at the Millwall players and gone, their height, will I be able to dominate? But unfortunately, you've just got to be either punching that or coming to claim it, or at least making it difficult for the Millwall players. Roberto, from your perspective, who's at fault, do you think, for... I mean, for the first goal for me was quite unlucky. It was again from wide areas. It was one of those, it kind of ricocheted off for a few people. I think it'd be difficult to go, it's a poor goal to concede, but I didn't feel like there was one person I could particularly blame at. The second one, is it Batman for you that needs to be doing better, or was it just in general the marking? Whether I think we normally go zonal now, don't we, in terms of the marking?
Absolutely. No, I think you're right. I think the first goal definitely was just a collective unlucky moment, really, because there's a few times where the ball gets recycled back by Millwall. They're trying to get it back into the box, and we don't properly clear our lines, and it just gets brought back into the box. And really, when Fleming scored that quite close range, it was just one moment of the Watford defence falling asleep and not a lot that could be done. They were pretty touch tight in terms of marking, so I don't think that was that their fault, really. The second one, I think that's really a bit of an issue, because when you get the corner given for Millwall, the defence has to reset and think, okay, now everyone get in their positions and really get to a position where they're going to, even if it's two Watford defenders, just trying to mark out those aerial threats in the box, because when those corners are going to get swung in and there's a chance that the defenders will throw themselves at it, either the defence there or the keeper has to make a bit of more of a license of the situation and show that authority. So I do worry that from the set piece, we are just getting a bit out-muscled, and that was obviously what, unfortunately, was our Achilles heel when it came to the goal from Wes Harding.
Yeah, the first one, sorry.
No, I was going to go for it.
I'm watching it back, and it's a bit harsh, and I do agree with Roberto, but Jake Livermore just a split second lost Fleming, and that's all it takes, and Fleming's a really good player, so we just put it away. And the second one, 2 points that Imran Loser kind of was supposed to be near Harding, who scored the goal. But Tommy Mooney said something that quite made me laugh on Batman. It was like Batman had a kind of bungee jump on his back where he went out to get it and then he thought, no, he's not going to get it, and it pulled him back. But it's just not being dominant in his area, and it's costing us goals and probably the win. But I don't think our defenders help him out either. I think set pieces is something Val needs to address as soon as he can.
Yeah, agreed. I think also what you can't underestimate is probably the impact that does have on the two centre-backs in front of him. Because if you're thinking as the centre-back, and I've played in sensitive positions, and I'm in no way saying it's the same level as the Championship. But what I will say is, if you know you've got a dodgy keeper behind you, I'm not going to name any names. If you've got a dodgy keeper behind you, you know you're in trouble. And more often than not, you might drop a little bit deeper because you need to protect the goalkeeper. So it's definitely a problem for Watford, I think. And look, I don't want to just continue with this negative tone because we will look at some more of the positive aspects from this Watford performance. Because overall, I think we can all agree it was a good one. Away from the individual mistakes. Charlie, you mentioned the substitutions there from Val, and that's one thing that's been getting quite a lot of scrutiny, I think. And I think rightly so, because I felt that when the changes were made, Watford lost momentum, they lost control of the game. What was your thinking when he first made the call? Did you think it was the right one? And actually now, obviously seeing it in hindsight, is it fair to say it wasn't the right move?
What were the exact substitutions in? I think Kone went off quite early, didn't he? And Kone was having a really, really good game.
Kone Loser, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I've just double checked it now. So Asprilla came off for Martins, Kone came off for Loser, and then Rajovic came on for Bayo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit torn because, to be honest, if you look at it, Val's probably argument would say Rajovic scored the equaliser, Loser got the assist for Rajovic, and we shouldn't forget shout out to Reece Healy, who went full Peseta, and he probably saved us, got us a point. That was a really good bit of defending, just getting that header on the line to save it. So without those players, we may not have got a point, but without making the changes, we might have been a bit more in control of the game. Because I don't think we created as many chances when the players came on. I think we weren't as effective with Ken Sema kind of switching. But I think on the whole, this is what we're going to have to get used to. This is Val ball. He is going to make those substitutions. I think you've mentioned it before. I prefer him being proactive. I think this season we've seen it work for us a lot more times than it's worked against us. So I don't mind it. It keeps the culture in the squad quite good, knowing everyone's going to get a chance. So it might not have been the most impactful yesterday, although Rajovic got the equaliser. But on the whole, I don't mind it.
I think the question is, Roberto, is it a case of changing personnel or is it a case of changing tactic? Because what we've seen from Val is he rarely changes the system in game. I think we all know he has those three subs, and it has rotated those three subs in 60 minutes that he makes the change, which is understandable because particularly with some players that you felt were a little bit leggy. Would you like to see him change the setup more than the personnel, or did you understand the thinking yesterday when he made that sub?
Yeah, I understood the logic behind the substitutions. I just feel that when we do make three, it's almost too much change at one point in the game, especially when I felt around 55, 60 minutes, we had quite good control of the match. And that momentum and that control, I think, was thrown away a little bit at the sacrifice of maybe having some fresh players. And look, ultimately, up to that point, I thought Kone was showing some fairly good stuff, in the midfield, traveling with the ball quite well. And Bayo, he wasn't amazing in the game, but there were a few times he slid in and was like close to some balls into the box. So Bayo was not far away, really. He was just a few yards behind where we'd want him to be. So they're kind of the players that are coming off and not having awful performances. It's just he feels that it needs to be a freshen up of those positions. And I think when there's three subs all at once, it does just take a bit of the kind of vision out of the squad of what they're planning to do and their setup, because certain players will be able to achieve their position in the tactical setup better than others. So those that come on, they might have more energy and they might have a different side to their game, but they might not perform certain roles in the tactical setup that Rajovic, for instance, when he comes on, it's a different player to Bayo. So you have to have a rethink as a squad, really, rather than just one player for this player. So I think he's probably thinking, I don't want to change tactics, I just want to change personnel. But I think in changing the personnel, it kind of inevitably does change the kind of tactical structure.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're trying to say, mate. I think it's an interesting one, particularly in that striker role for me, because you look at Bayo and Rajovic, and they're almost like two completely opposite strikers in the sense that with Bayo, you feel the missing piece is that final pass or that final shot and that final finish, whereas with Rajovic, that isn't the problem. It's more actually getting him in the game and linking up play and feeding the defender and making himself a bit more of a presence in sort of the build-up. So it's almost like you wish you could merge the two together. So I'm not really too sure who I prefer really in that role. I have to say, let's just flip it into sort of the performance aspects of Watford. And I think we mentioned the midfield there, Charlie. That dynamic between Livermore, Kiembe, Kone, I like the look of that. I think Kiembe's a little bit better further. Why are you laughing? Is it because
I'm just thinking, who would have thought that
would be the midfield? Yeah,
that Paul Rodney minute. Who would have thought it? Kone and Kiembe and Jake Livermore.
Do you know what? It was the first time this season I thought that looks like a midfield. Is what I would say. Like three players who know the roles, they know how to play the role. You could tell that they all offered little different things. I think Kiembe's better in an 8 than he is a 6. I think in a 6 he's a bit too ponderous. Livermore's a bit more of like a governor in there. He's communicating, he's marshalling, he's disrupting play. And then with Kone, you've got a ball carrier. So that dynamic, do you feel like that's the three now that you feel we could kind of use as a template?
Definitely feel they've all kept the shirt. I think Kone was good again. I thought he was good again on a Saturday. I'm trying to think, was he good against Swansea? I think he was.
Pretty good. I mean, I think Kone technically is probably our best midfielder. If you look at someone who's in terms of on the ball and his technical ability,
yeah, he's just got that. He's got that dynamism. I keep saying it. He can beat a man. He can get the ball before other players. I think, like you said, Kiembe as an 8 is a lot better at holding, and Livermore just does a solid job. Started last 4 games, we haven't lost, so can't really argue with that. I think they've all kept the shirt. So interesting, really, when you've got Imran Louza. He didn't get on against Swansea, and even yesterday, I thought what do you guys think?
Roberto, go on, mate. Loses a whip because for me, he frustrates the life out of me because you have that cross for Rajovic's header. I keep correcting myself now. Now I've heard the proper pronunciation. Rajovic's header. That cross is a beauty. Like, I mean, it's absolutely perfect. But then bar that, you take that away from his performance, Roberto, and you're looking at it and going, is he offering enough?
It's a frustrating thing with Imran Louza because we know the quality he can offer. And I think when he's on his best form, he is probably one of our best players in the squad. So he does have that creative eye that unlocks defenses. And I think sometimes when Louza gets the ball and he just sees everything play out in front of him, he can make those diagonal through balls and the switching of play that a lot of other Watford midfielders can't see those kind of runs. And, we've said it the last few days and games, but we haven't seen a lot of movement off the ball from Watford players. I think often in midfield, it gets a bit congested, a bit too much sideways passing. So maybe what Louza can offer is something where those balls over the top behind, in behind for Rajovic, maybe that's going to suit his game a little bit better. But as you say, Louza's not been playing the best recently. And as you say, even though he got the assist for that goal from Rajovic, it was a great cross, great persistence to get that cross in. But I just feel that he needs to be more consistent in his performances before he's nailed to be starting. As you say, Charlie, I think those midfield 3 on Saturday, I was really impressed, especially by Kiembe, because I think Kiembe's been a player who the last few years has been okay, but he's kind of not really implanted his kind of showing of performances. And I feel that was much more assertive and used his physicality to kind of win those midfield battles. So
yeah, agreed. And also, like, he was very much involved in that first goal. I mean, obviously the shot that was parried, and then I think it was Cooper had a bit of a shocker there but it was good anticipation from Yasser Esprit. Just other individuals, Charlie, that I wanted to pick out. Someone you mentioned was Jeremy Ngakia, who I feel like has probably had one of his best weeks in a Watford shirt, to be fair. I mean, in terms of back-to-back performances. What is it about his performance now that he feels improving? Because before we've criticised him. Maybe I think there's times where I watch him where I don't think he's probably been coached, but he's had so many different coaches at Watford. It feels like now Val's given him the role. It's quite clear instructions of what he wants to do, and he's ending up as sort of this number 10 role, drifting in. What have you made of his? What have you made of his performances so far?
Yeah, I think Jordan Weimer tweeted this week was probably the best use of our inverted fullbacks for a while. His position essentially was causing Millwall a lot of problems. They didn't know whether to pick him up. He was finding it sometimes, turning, driving in the midfield. But for me, I thought Swansea, he was unbelievable. Out of possession, he was winning all of his duels, aerial duels. I'm just looking now, ground duels, he won 8 out of 12, aerial duels, 4 out of 5. Could have got 2 assists. Lovely ball to the back stick. Rajovic should have scored. Bio should have scored.
Yes, yeah.
And even Rajovic in the second half, nice ball across, and it was probably good defending. So, and Ngakia's looking like he's having a bit of confidence. He's building into this team. It's interesting. I think Ryan Andrews, I have no idea why it feels like he's had like an 8-game suspension. But
mate, it's crazy, isn't it? I think it's 4 games he got in the end.
Yeah, mad. But again, we're all waxing lyrical about how much we rate Ryan Andrews, but he's got to do some work now when he gets a chance to get in Ngakia, because I think he's been excellent last 2 games.
Yeah, and also someone I wanted to mention the back line, I mean, is Francisco Sierralta. I know I don't want to say I told you so, Charlie, but you play your best centre-back in his best position. And I think you've seen, in terms of, as you mentioned, the sort of duels and stuff, Sierralta, again, yesterday, solid, really, really good, especially in the air. I think at Swansea away, Roberto, he was solid as well. What do you think is the best partnership? Is that the one? Is the one we're playing yesterday the best for you, do you think? Or do you see Porto as Ryan Porteous coming back in at some point?
Yeah, it's tricky because I think when we played Sierralta as the 6, and he's kind of moved into midfield from that defensive position, almost playing a bit of a John Stones role, going into midfield and inverting. Not that, that there's some comparison there, but,
I think Stones is on as well. Yeah.
Of course. But no, I would say Sierralta, the early days of him playing as that 6, I was impressed by Sierralta, and I think it did work. But then I think a few games after that, teams kind of found out that system and it didn't quite have the same impact. Now, Sierralta back at the centre-back yesterday, I felt he did look back to his best. The problem I've got is that when there's the kind of centre-back pairing of Sierralta and Hoot, that's a lot of physicality. And I think in terms of playing out with our feet, we're not great at it. And I feel like maybe Porteous would be slightly better at that. So there's different things that Porteous brings to the kind of back line, especially if we're playing around out the back as we have been. So, yeah, I think for certain matches, Sierralta is perfect. I think for the game yesterday, up against those physical Millwall attackers, it really did help to have someone like Sierralta as a presence. But yeah, it's a really tricky one for Val to decide who does start, I think.
Charlie, just looking at this Watford team at the moment, as we said, we're on the back of a really good week. I think if you said to us at the start, I mean, if you said to us at Mad Squirrel after the Sheffield Wednesday game that we'd come away with 7 points out of the week, we would have absolutely taken that. I don't think we were feeling that confident going into either of these games, particularly Swansea away. We've come away, we've broken that curse, which I think psychologically is a big thing as well. And you could tell by the reaction of the Watford players at the end at the Liberty Stadium that they knew it was a really big milestone, because the longer it goes on, the longer it drags. They finally got that out of the way. And then even yesterday, granted, I think our performance probably meant we should have won the game, but in terms of chances created, probably, as you say, that Healy block off the line, we could have quite easily lost that game as well. So we come away with a point. It's a 7-point week. Where is this Watford team now? What have you learned over the last week, Charlie, about this Watford team, both the pros and the cons of this team at this moment in time?
Yeah, you're saying we weren't feeling confident, but who predicted 1-0 away the next
Mate, what was in that utopia? I'll tell you what, mate. Jeez. What was in it?
And I also predicted you draw yesterday. But anyway, I'm sure Sam will be back with that prediction.
Bringing up the receipts.
Yeah, look at our next 2 games. We're up against Huddersfield and Rotherham. So we should be taking the game to them, and we should be looking for at least 3 or 4 points from those 2 games. Because we've got a lot more quality than those 2 teams, and they're both struggling. I think today Rotherham lost to Sheffield Wednesday, so I think we're in a lot better positions. I think what I've been impressed the most is just a smidge of resilience in the last couple of weeks. Swansea wasn't easy. Even before we dug in, Dan Batman did well, a couple of good saves, but defensively I think we were quite solid. And how many times have we seen that last season, even the season before in the Premier League, where we're half in a game, we concede a set piece, they score us from a set piece, we lose late on, heads go down. But yesterday, it was more of a sense of, come on, let's go for it. We scored, and it was even a sense of, we're not done there. Rajovic got the ball and went straight. He wanted to win the game. So I think that mentality was what I've been most impressed with this week, and I just want to see the confidence build. Hopefully we can see more like we did from the first half yesterday, because I thought that was quite impressive. And yeah, we need to back-to-back away performances against Huddersfield, who are down on confidence. So yeah, it's been a really good week for me.
Yeah, I agree. Just to jump over to you, Roberto, where are you with this Watford team at the moment? I don't think we've had you on. Yeah, we haven't had you on this season. So from what you've seen so far, I mean, you look at the last 4 games, we've got 8 points. If you include the Cardiff game as well, we had a run of 3 defeats in a row before that. So as Charlie says, the character, mentality and resilience of this Watford team, I don't think anyone can really question. The effort and application, you can't question at all. The quality probably at times where we can question it. We're 16th in the league. We've got 17 points. How do you assess from what you've seen so far this Watford team?
I think ultimately I was fortunate enough to visit the Watford training ground at the start of the season and see the players train and hear Valérien talk in the press conferences. And I think I just got a different feeling right from the get-go about this group of players and this manager, that the vibe at the training ground and in this club is just better generally. And I think Valérien is a big part of that. I think he's talked a lot about, certainly in pre-season, about mentality, about kind of going from a blank slate, resetting. And we had a lot about that with the transfer window, the players we sold, just letting a lot go of a lot of dead wood. But I think it's the approach and the attitude that the Watford players have shown this season that's really impressed me. Because yes, as you say, Jacob, the results haven't really been there, but I felt that in a lot of games this season, the performances have been, and it's just been not quite knowing how to grind out those results. So I've been really impressed. I mean, obviously the table is not looking brilliant at the moment, but it is only 14 weeks in, so we can't get too panicked at the same time. But I think just this long-term committing of the club to an identity back and having a manager that they're putting their faith in for a long time process, I think that gives the players confidence to really go at the league and really give all they can in every match. So I think in a kind of off the pitch perspective, I'm really pleased for the club at the moment. As you say, results hopefully will come with performances, but I think there's a lot to be positive about, at least in the background for the Hornets at the moment.
Sure, for sure. I think you're looking at the table, Charlie, at the moment, 16th in the league, as I said, 14 games, 17 points. And then you look at some of the games coming up. And the crazy thing is, and when you look at this table at the moment, Watford are 6 points off the playoffs. And I know some people would say, well, that's only 14 games in. So is that actually that good? The fact of the matter is, this season can just change so quickly. I remember at one point, but I think after what game was it? Was it after the Sheffield Wednesday game? We were saying, are we in a relegation battle? I'm not saying we're not, but also at the same time, we're almost the same distance from the relegation zone as we are to the playoff positions in 6th. So is it just a case of us as fans keeping it there rather than jumping up and down after every game? Because I think we've all been guilty of it at some point, but it feels like we're going to have to stay there if we want to see any sort of progression this season.
Yeah, I think we've said a lot on this channel about kind of expectations, what's going to happen this year. And I think we've all said we're not going to be in a promotion battle or a promotion running. There's going to be ups and downs. Roberto mentioned about all the players that we sold in the summer. So we just need to enjoy it where we can and see where it takes us. And hopefully, I think we all took a bit of a setback after the Ben Manga news, because I was looking to how can we build in January, what pieces of the puzzle can we add to. Obviously, January is going to come and all the transfer rumours will come, and we know where they'll kind of be coming from, Giuretta and Pozzo and that recruitment team. But look, I think the main thing we need to stick behind is the manager. I think we were quite critical of him after the Middlesbrough game where he changed the formation. And I actually have been impressed about how he's adapted, especially that Cardiff game where he has gone pragmatic. A lot of coaches say, you should never change your principles, stick to them. But I think that's all well and good for Klopp and Pep, where they've got top quality players in every position. I've actually been impressed with how he's been a lot more pragmatic to get the results, to stop the bleeding, and build that confidence back up, because we did lose 3 in a row, and you know what it's like, Watford, it can kind of get out of control. But I've been impressed how he's managed and navigated to get back to a position where I feel like we've got more confidence in the squad, and hopefully we can get 2 more positive results, and then we play Leicester. So I feel a lot better than I did kind of after those 3 games. So I've been impressed with Val.
Yeah, agreed. I think it was the right move to go a bit more pragmatic. I think it's almost a flip of what happened at the start of the season. As Roberto mentioned, there was performances that you felt deserved more, but we weren't getting it. And actually, if let's say, for example, the Sheffield Wednesday game, the performance wasn't great, but we've come away with a win. And I think that's probably the change in approach. And then you start to get people buying in. I'm not saying there wasn't buying before, but then if you're getting wins and you haven't played great, then it's like, okay, we can keep ticking over. Do you know what? Just to wrap up today, it's been great having Roberto on, mate. Do you know what? We'll get your prediction as well, just going into Huddersfield next week. It's nice for Watford to not have a midweek game, actually, a full week of recovery. Any players coming back, Charlie? So Andrew's coming back?
I think that's it. I think apart from that, we've got a fully fit squad, which again is a talking point because this time last season we had about 20 players injured. So maybe that's credit to Val or the medical team that we've got a full squad of players to pick from, because
agreed.
We were all worried about the depth of the squad and not bringing in a certain amount of players. So I think there's a solid bunch of players that we got all vying for a spot. So yeah, I think we're in a good nick.
Do you know what? Prediction league. So Sam's gone for a 2-1 win for Watford. Roberto?
Oh, it's a tricky one because I feel like Huddersfield are always a team that you think on paper that should be a win, and we've gone to the John Smith Stadium before and lost, last minute sort of thing. And it was.
Don't remind me of that Tom Ince last minute winner. Oh, that was the longest day of my life.
Tom Ince will be on the right side of the goal scoring this time, and I've got to say, if Jamal Lewis starts again, I thought he was excellent in the game against Millwall. If he starts again, hopefully he can provide us a bit of attacking options. But I do feel this will be, on paper, a game that we should win. The quality. I know Huddersfield have not had the best start to the season, obviously, what with Warnock last season and part of this. So I'll go for a 2-0 Watford, but I'm hopeful of another clean sheet for the Hornets.
Any changes, Roberto, by the way, to yesterday's team? If you were going into this Sunday?
If I was choosing it now, I would probably give a start for Chakvedadze. Now, I know that it's a bit of a difficult one to fit in with, obviously, really good performances from Asprilla and also from the likes of, I think Martins offers a lot, and, we saw Sam how good he was yesterday. But it's if we can find a way to fit Chakvedadze in, because I do feel that he offers us something, that dynamism on the wing and really just cutting in and creating those chances. So
where would you play him?
I quite like Chakvedadze almost playing as a bit of an 8, because I feel like if we had maybe Martins or Asprilla on the right and then Sema on the left, then that gives maybe the license for maybe someone like Kayembe and possibly Loser when he's in form, or next to him Kayembe, maybe someone more like Kone, just almost sitting as the 2 6s and then giving kind of a bit of a chance for Chakvedadze to kind of move into that 8-10 position. I'm not sure. It's hard to negotiate, as I said, but it's a player I think deserves more minutes. I'd love to see him to get those starts, really.
Charlie, prediction for Huddersfield?
I'm going to go with a Watford win. 3-1 to Watford.
I think we'll win as well. I feel like after we've broken the curse of that away win, it would not surprise me if we get 2 in a week or whatever.
London buses.
Yeah, honestly. I'm going to go with a 2-1 Watford win. Do you know what, one thing we did miss out, just to wrap up on today, was Tom Dele-Bashiru, who was at the Swansea game, was dropped out the squad. I think where people, and I don't know if any of you guys saw this, but I think where people had a problem with it, Roberto, was the fact that Loser did the exact same thing, was late for a team meeting. And these rules, by the way, had been drawn up by Val and the players before the start of the season. So everyone knew the sort of the record was the fact that Loser was put onto the bench, but Dele-Bashiru was dropped out the squad. Some people said, is that consistent? What was your take on it? Do you think that's the right thing to do?
I mean, I guess it's hard, isn't it, to know the context around how late were each of the players, what was the things that were said afterwards. We don't quite know the ins and outs of that. But yeah, I think it's impressive that Valorant has that kind of level of control, because you see some managers, they get walked over by players. True. They don't have the authority to do those sort of things. So I think Valorant, the fact he's maintaining those standards and letting people, basically get up to those standards and try and match them every single time, it is providing a bit of a better ethos in the squad to have that standard that everyone's kind of trying to set and trying to get up to. So I think, yeah, I like the approach from Val. I agree. On face value, if we don't know the ins and outs, it looks like those are 2 very similar incidents, and perhaps Dele-Bashiru will feel a bit more hard done by there. But I think, yeah, ultimately, as long as, he's back in kind of the right mentality, Dele-Bashiru, and, we can put that behind him. Hopefully he's learned from that. He's still a young player, of course. Then hopefully that's a lesson that he can learn from that.
I'm not sure if it's true, but I've heard apparently the rule is if you're starting and you turn up late, you go down to the bench. If you're going to be on the bench, you're not in the squad.
Interesting.
But then what if you? So,
I'm not convinced.
honestly, I wish there was that system for my Sunday league team. Jesus. Do you know what? I think that's pretty much what we're going to wrap up. Before I do wrap it up, just wanted to give a shout out to Mad Squirrel, best beer in Watford. Make sure you do go and check those guys out. Sam was there yesterday. Got a couple of cans of sumo for the road. Best beer in Watford. Great food, great vibes, and thoroughly recommended. Thanks to those guys for partnering with us for this season. Roberto, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. We've got to get you back on. What a live debut that was. Phenomenal.
Thank you very much.
What you rating your performance out of 10, Roberto? We're doing a player ratings.
Wow. I mean,
compare yourself to Watford players' performance yesterday.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't want to brag. I don't want to say that.
Oh, no. If it was me, mate, I'm looking at your performance going. I think
Kayembe.
It was a Kiembe. It was one of those. It's like he's come in, dynamic, great on the ball, did what he had to do very, very well with a bit of quality in there. Charlie Zazzera would be more of a sort of like
Wesley who?
see her outer, get it out, and I'll just be Livermore in the middle, just keeping it ticking over. So I think that's where do you know what? In the comment section, let us know who did everyone perform like in terms of what play. But Roberto, what a man! Thank you so much for coming on, mate. The Form is Temporary podcast. Make sure you check out link in the description below. Charlie, what a pleasure. Sam, if you're watching this, mate, get well soon.
And was Tom Delly because he dropped out because of illness.
Very true. Do you know what? Sam picked up Matty Pollock's shirt after the game today, so I'll have to get that framed. We'll see it in the next video. Thanks everyone who watched. Please do leave a like on the video. Subscribe to WD18. Follow all the guys on socials, and we will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good week.